playing with confidence. Surges it inside 50.
Inside 50, good hands.
Drilling it into centre half forward. That was end-to-end football at its best.
Back-to-back goals either side of quarter time.
They have done it, the Bulldogs!
I'd find somebody for you. There ain't no wall I would run through. In your corner when they're ringing the bell. Come hell or high water. I'd find somebody for you.
Yes, g'day WAFL fans. Welcome one and all to another edition of Around the WAFL, your Monday night recap show. And what another great weekend of WAFL football it turned out to be, with some great thrillers in the WAFL and some drama in the WAFL W as well that has really turned the finals race on another gear with one more round to go. And we're going to break it all down for you here today on your go-to WAFL podcast in season 2026 on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel and, of course, where you get your podcasts. Paul Persick's my name. Great to have your company. Ethan Roth's alongside me. And Rothy, what a weekend it was. It just keeps on giving, the WAFL.
Hello, Paul. Yes, the finals race in both the WAFL W and WAFL competitions is certainly heating up. So, yeah, it feels like, with the WAFL W, one round left, and there's only one game that's really a dead rubber, and for the WAFL, continues on as well. So, yeah, it's an exciting month coming up.
It certainly is. It's going to be a big month of football before the finals. We'll recap the weekend's action shortly in the WAFL and the WAFL W. Player of the Year votes will be cast, as well as the top 3 plays of the week, the highlights of the highlights. But, Rothy, during the weekend, huge news in the WAFL. We've got 2 news items to break down just quickly before we get started with our recap. First off, the WAFL W Grand Final is heading to the Port. August 23, Rothy, at Fremantle Oval.
It's locked in. So, yeah, Fremantle Community Bank Oval, the venue for the decider. We wait to see, of course, who the teams will be in both the Rogers Cup and also the WAFL W. But, yeah, it's been announced for August 23. So, yeah, it's obviously a great place for entertainment history combining there and that sort of thing. But even, the ground, obviously, for a long part, Fremantle AFLW home ground. So, the occasion is there, and with a 12:05 start, a bit of an earlier start, allows, fans to watch the game and then head to the AFL game, which is also scheduled later that day, so that there's no clash.
I find that a bit weird, that an early starting time, but since, fans can go to both games on the same day, that's not really a bad thing after all. Obviously, the earlier time does throw off a few people with, routines and stuff like that. The Rogers Cup is going to be a lot earlier this time around with the 12:05 start in the league. But with it being at Fremantle Oval, it's going to be a great place to watch the footy. We saw the grand final in the men's in 2020, and I reckon this year could capture that one-of-a-kind grand final sort of vibe, with hopefully a big crowd.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's been grand finals there before. As I mentioned, AFLW was there for a long time with Fremantle, which drew good crowds, and yeah, I think it's going to be a great spectacle. So, encouraging everyone to get there. And yeah, should be a cracker of a day as well. And, last year, not that it took away from the occasion at Mineral Resources Park, but Fremantle versus Bulldogs was on at the same time, which was a game, that was almost a final in itself. So, if we can get a standalone game as much as possible, I understand there's a lot of footy at that time of year across the country, then, it's going to suit all parties.
And credit to the town of Fremantle and WA Football for putting it all together. A job very well done. Fremantle Oval, the place to be on August 23rd, WAFL W Grand Final Day. And in the Colts as well, Rothy, Claremont, they have got great sustained success in Colts over the years, and their coach, Mark Cossum, has signed on for a couple more years till the end of 2028. He will be at the helm at the Claremont Colts.
Yeah, it's a move that's not really surprising. Obviously, first year there, and they sit second on the ladder, so going to get a lot of their State 18 stars back. You think of a Heath Melody, Lark medalist, and under 18s MVP, and also the captain of the All-Australian side. Hasn't even played a game yet for Claremont, which is scary. So further 2 years for him, taking over from Ricky Smith last year, and Claremont still aiming to be the first team since Claremont in the 90s to do the 4-peat, which only really, I think, South Fremantle, East Fremantle probably standing in the way of.
We'll have more Colts coming up later on at Rothy in your Colts report, but that is some big news across the weekend in the WAFL and the WAFL W competition, repeating, of course, the grand final at Fremantle Oval on August 23rd. You do not want to miss it. Trust me, it is going to be an absolute ripper. Let's get on with the show. All right, time to get into the recap of the round 16 action in the Sullivan Logistics WAFL Premiership season. Rothy, we're going to start out at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, and you could never truly write off the Tigers. They were magnificent against East Perth on Saturday, and they wound up winning by 32 points, 12-11, 83 to 8-3, 51. Claremont in control all day, Rothy, and that puts them back into second place on the Premiership ladder. Much needed for Claremont.
Yeah, much needed would be an understatement. Obviously losing 4 of their last 5, and had a lot of contributors on the day. Was was up in the air early, but it was really the second quarter that they found the momentum. And East Perth, didn't give up, but into the end, but I think the fourth quarter really blew it open. It was sort of a seesawing game, but Claremont with the likes of Alvarez, Gowdy, Musica, Waterman all hitting the scoreboard in more ways than one, got the upper hand on the Royals and bounced back from their last encounter with them. Obviously, East Perth upset them earlier at the Tigers home ground, so they returned the favour away from home to the Tigers.
And they did it emphatically as well, almost a similar nature to how East Perth did it in Claremont's centenary game earlier in the season. They knocked the East Perth side around. They knew that East Perth were still without their most experienced players, and the pressure they put on the football was just tremendous. I mean, when you're looking at Bailey Rogers, he's battled through injury for most of the last month and a half, but he was back to his best with 26 disposals. Alvarez, what a game he's having in a breakout year for the Claremont side. Anthony Davis down the back line was brilliant, shifted up forward for a goal. Eastland, I would say, gave Scotty Jones a bath. He's been taken to in the last couple of games, so Scotty Jones. And, of course, up forward you had the firepower and the likes of Musica, Gowdy, Alvarez, as we mentioned, with a couple of goals, and Alec Waterman. So everything just clicked for the Tigers, and especially their forward pressure around the football, forcing those turnovers when East Perth kicked out of their defensive 50. And I'll say as well, East Perth's kicking from the back line was atrocious.
Yeah, it was, and Claremont, obviously, credit to them for taking the opportunities off turnover. I think we're a lot more convinced with Claremont when they have a lot more contributors on the ball. Like we've seen the likes of Hunter and Gowdy kick big bags of goals, but it hasn't often or always worked out for them. So I think sometimes, if Claremont are going to go all the way this year, they need a stack of contributors, and some of those lesser names like Musica and Alvarez has flown under the radar this year. I think, it's really making the pressure off the senior guys a little bit more so.
And does this win mean that Claremont are truly back on track? They've lost 4 out of their last 5 beforehand, but you think the way they were able to beat East Perth and show that they can take it to sides in the 5, would you think they're back on track? I would think so, yes, because this was a win they needed to have this close to the season, and they want to lock in that double chance, that top 3 finish in a home final. That'll be incredibly important for the side in the weeks to come, and they had more contributors all around the ground, and the way they were effective, they were brilliant.
Yeah, I think that'll be a question that we can only answer in the next couple of weeks. Obviously, whenever a team loses or a team wins, we don't obviously want to overreact to one performance. But, promising signs for Claremont. And, it's just the way that they played, which was really impressive in the end, because sometimes you can win and you can win ugly. And I think, the accuracy was tidied up for their sake as well.
Only concern was Jaden Hunter with what appears to be an ankle injury. He went down early in the match, but fingers crossed for Claremont's sake that it is not too serious. I was speaking in the rooms afterwards, and he's waving off the concern about that injury, but let's hope that he is okay, ready for the big game coming up against West Perth on Saturday. East Perth, they were out on their feet for much of that second half. Okay, they had a bit of a glimpse in the third quarter, in which they had a big run. They kicked 4 goals to 2 in that third quarter. But you'd still feel that they were a long way behind, especially in the pressure gauge. They were well below their standard. And you had players like Foley, Stevens, Wilcox and Saunders really having to work overtime. And why they didn't put Medhat in that forward line in that game is absolute beggar's belief. And why didn't they put Graham in there? I'll never know. I think it was 2 moves too many that went against them.
Yeah, and it showed in the reserves with what Medhat did. And East Perth, they're just a bit inconsistent at the moment. They're in that mid-tier of teams, and I think inconsistency has been a big part of their season so far. And yes, they've had injuries, which has interrupted them, but they do look a bit of a shade of what they were in to get to a grand final last year. But having said that, they're still very much in the mix, so you can't write them off completely, especially if they can get some key players back.
Well, they did have Angus Scott come back in that game, and he had 23 disposals. Okay, he was coming back from injury, maybe not his best by his standards, but to see him out there returning and, providing an effective contribution to a side that was well beaten, I think is a good sign for East Perth that they can still make the 5.
Yeah, Angus Scott obviously being a really consistent player over a long period of time, and has played state footy, and towards the middle stage of the year really found his groove and came out of the side and came back in. So he's a player that is typically, the team is a lot better when he's there. So, continuity. But having said that, they can't just rely on that. They've got to be able to get on their mark a little bit, get some momentum, because other teams will go past them if they drop too many other games from here.
Absolutely. Ash Prescott very pleased with his side's effort. Definitely one of the best in 6 weeks, I will say. And there's no doubt that Claremont are back on track, and they made a really big statement. Winners by 32 points over what was a very patchy East Perth at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. And this one was a bit closer. This was a real up-and-down game at Lane Group Stadium. Peel Thunder and Subiaco, the Lions, jumped out of the gate 6-3 first term. Then Peel Thunder fought back. And in the end, it was a clutch mark by Jack Sears that sealed the deal for Peel Thunder, but only by 8 points. 11-11-77 to 11-3-69. Peel Thunder may have won the game, but Subiaco, they gained plenty of hearts from the way they were able to stick it out with Peel Thunder despite the topsy-turvy nature in the game. It was a magnificent game. Credit to Subiaco and to Peel Thunder for putting on a show.
Yeah, they lost no admirers, Subiaco, but I think as well they'll be disappointed with the way that they started the game, an opportunity that they left to claim a huge scalp. Really, like no one's really been able to go with Peel Thunder for the best part of 10 weeks. So, it was a game where Peel Thunder, obviously those behinds that they came back in their favour, and they had the same amount of goals in the end. But yeah, Peel Thunder, they did it without Jeremy Sharp as well. Like obviously the Sandover fans, he only had 13 disposals. So credit for Subiaco, Marlon Corbett for notably shutting him down. But it just shows that Peel Thunder have so many players, regardless. And the likes of Banfield, Carr, obviously Sean Darcy, we know what he can do. Lockie Tarter has been doing it all year as well. So. I thought this game would have been a lot bigger than the margin that it was, but credit for Subiaco, albeit they did let it slip as well.
Yeah, Marlon Corbett provided that hard tag on Jeremy Sharp, and I thought it was magnificent, very effective, shut him out of any real big impact that he had in the game, 13 disposals. But I thought Greg Clark's role was big as well, because Peel Thunder like to play that fast-flowing, high-scoring brand of football. It's what's revitalised Peel's fortunes. But Greg Clark's presence around the coalface with 14 tackles in total, I thought was the key in shutting out Peel's free-flowing nature of the game. And since he's been back in the side, he's had a disjointed season with injury and suspension. I thought this was one of his best performances for quite a while.
He certainly leads by example, doesn't he? And he plays with a lot of pride, and he's just a leader by example. Lets his actions do the talking. So 15 tackles, also had the 20 disposals as well. They walk taller when he's out there, so it's just a matter of obviously being able to be consistent, but obviously he's 29, so he's going to have a little bit of in and out time as well.
Subiaco, well, their 9 out of 10 games this year have been decided by less than 10 points. So you talk about East Perth being a side of almost this year. Subiaco would have that tag as well, but they're showing that they have got a good blueprint for success in their revitalised fortunes under Jared Schofield. They can challenge other sides in the 5. It's just all about getting it done. Challenging's one thing, but getting to a victory is another.
Yeah, 7-7, their record could easily be a lot more positive than that. But they do find themselves in the 5 on percentage as well. So, it is a nice platform. And if they can, they'll take some belief out of that, being able to match with the best side that is 2 games clear in Peel.
How about Ryan Borchett? Since he came back, he's been amongst the goals. He's kicked 4 again, this time against Peel Thunder. And he spent a long time out of the league side with injury. But since coming back, he's back into Ryan Borchett form. Yeah,
low disposal, high impact, 6 disposals, 4 goals as well. So doesn't eat a lot of the footy, and continues to lead up like all day, but can go back with a flight as well and can take a real contested clunk. So he's got multiple avenues to do it, and again, an experienced player that's been there for a long time and continues to deliver when his side needs it.
A great win for Peel Thunder, but Subiaco, they gave it all in that 8-point result at Lane Group Stadium. And this one also was another up and down game, the third and final game of the round, West Coast and West Perth, down at HIF Health Insurance Oval in Joondalup. It was all square at half time, but then the Eagles kicked away in the last quarter and would go on and win by 12 points, 102 to 13-12-90. And that win, Rothy, gives the Eagles a big chance of making the 5.
They've got a bit of belief now, don't they? The Eagles helps with availability, and when you got a guy like Cooper Duff-Tyler, top 5 draft pick.
How good was he?
Kicking 4 goals, it's always going to help to prove himself again for senior selection. I don't really know why he's playing WAFL, to be honest. I think pretty unlucky to lose his spot in the AFL team. Obviously, first year as well, so you're going to have those natural ups and downs.
It's a learning year, isn't it?
It definitely is going to be, and it's a long-term project. But he, at an early stage in his career, showed that he was a class above the level, had a lot of support from the likes of Barnett and Flynn. It's a luxury for the Eagles to have 3 genuine rucks in their WAFL lineup, and that was reflective with Flynn being able to go forward and hit the scoreboard. Same with Harry Barnett. West Perth have been part of a few shootouts now in the last couple of weeks.
They have.
It was Tyler Keitel kicked 6 of them in the end. Great to see Harvey Sporting Guy on debut kicking 2 goals, much to delight his first one from the boundary to some of his Colts teammates. But on the other end, his Day18's teammates and father-son prospect Harper Banfield had 22 disposals, 13 in the first half. So that's a real positive sign for his, draft credentials.
The Eagles do have some serious belief, and the talent really follows that as well. You talk about Matty Flynn, one of those 3 genuine rucks that the Eagles can have in any 23. And I thought Banfield, he's taken a lot of skill from his brother and his dad as well. It all runs in the family, so congratulations to him on a great league debut as well. We talk about Tyrell Dewar as well. His run-off halfback was brilliant, created those opportunities when going into attack, 7 marks as well, and he can take those big clunks as well with a little more aerial presence in his game. Duff Tyler, that was a great game from him, best in a while with 4 straight goals. Harper Banfield, as you mentioned, with 20, and for you're looking at some of those players that were unheralded. They all played their role. Luca Grego down the back line, Clay Hall in the centre, got a goal as well, and Tom Gross just keeps doing Tom Gross things for the West Coast Eagles. Another 20-plus disposal game. The midfield is a lot more consistent this year than what it was last year, and those two are really showing it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any of them get a call-up for the Richmond game on Sunday, but nonetheless, they should have the likes of McRae in the side, also Grego across half-back as well. Schoenberg as well has been sort of on the fringe of the AFL team and had his opportunities as well. So, yeah, it was a good game by the Eagles as well. Night footy, which, they've had their fair share of night games. West Perth have as well, but they couldn't get it done. I thought West Perth would lose no admirers, though. I think to be able to take it up to a team like the Eagles, who have a stack of AFL talent out there, and for a team that's, bottom place of the ladder in West Perth, I think they'll take a lot of positives from that, and it could have been a win. But in the same sentence, I think they'll take a lot of positives from some improvement of their players. They
certainly will. Tyler Keitel, 6 goals. It could have easily been 10, but he did miss a few chances. But 6 goals now equal in the Bernie Naylor medal race, along with Aaron Clark, who had the bye with Perth this week. But West Perth, again, it's that patchy form they display over 4 quarters that really hurt. I mean, especially the first 10 minutes of the final term when the Eagles started to kick away. They got more of the football, they controlled the possession, and West Perth just couldn't find an answer for them. But having said that, Shane Nelson was brilliant. 28, just keeps racking them up. Connor West, his run through the corridor was magnificent. And you talk about the likes of Harvey Sporting Guy, 2 on debut. Zach Sprigg, that extra tall in the forward line with a couple of goals. But Keegan Knott also, he struggled with 3 behind. So it's still very patchy. One player's performing well in that forward line. Then the link in that forward line is not doing so well. So they've just got to find that consistent link, their continuity in that forward line to be able to maintain this brand of football.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they blood any more youngsters as well. Obviously, their Colts and reserves are right in the heart of the finals race as well. So, but it was good to see Harvey Sporting Guy get a gig for his own development and for his own draft credentials as well.
And that's a credit to Paul Sanzoni and the coaching staff. Now, they know that they can't make the finals. That's been known for weeks. They are willing to play the kids. They're willing to play the young kids, give them a go, get the miles in the legs in hoping for a big season in 2027.
Yeah, and Kobe LeCroix potentially is one that could come back as well in the coming weeks before the end of the year, so a bit more time potentially for him.
Absolutely. Big news there for West Perth. You heard it here first from the mustachioed mouth of the great man Ethan Roth, but that'll be certainly good for the West Perth Football Club. But in the end, on Saturday night, it was West Coast getting it done by 12 points in another exciting game of football over there at Joondalup. 3 games done, and the last of the bye rounds as well. Thank goodness for that, just quietly. Round 16 and the ladder. As it stands, Peel Thunder, they are 2 wins clear at the top of the ladder, but Claremont, Perth and South Fremantle are all on 36 points. Claremont holds second on percentage, then Subiaco are inside the 5 by just 3% ahead of East Perth, then comes West Coast on 28, and then Swan Districts, East Fremantle and West Perth rounding out the bottom half of the ladder with 4 rounds to go. It is going to be on. Votes time, Rothy. Player of the Year votes for round 16. 1 vote in a losing team, Tyler Keitel. Could have easily kicked 10, but he emerged as a constant threat in the forward line. He just keeps getting it done. His aerial ability, his goal kicking, okay, was a bit shoddy early, but he recovered and kicked 6 brilliant goals. In the same game, I gave 2 votes to Cooper Duff Tytler. I'll tell you what, in his first year with the Eagles, he should be playing AFL by now. And if he's not by the end of the season, then I don't know what the Eagles selectors are thinking at this time. Message to the AFL selectors, put him in the side and do it right now. Cooper Duff Tytler gets the 2 votes. Marvellous young forward he is going to be in the future. 3 votes. Bailey Rogers, the old workhorse. And I say he's the workhorse of the Claremont side because he's not only got the runs on the board, but he keeps on getting it done. Another big load of disposals, and he was able to be that real source of scoreboard pressure when going into attack. And he just really showed the team how to get it done. Traditional Claremont workhorse style. He was magnificent. 3 votes for him. 4 votes, Jaron Carr. He's a bit unheralded over there at the Peel Thunder side, and he's certainly going to get a lot of love this week with the 4 votes, and he was brilliant in midfield. Great gatherer of the footy, good control of possession, and he gets the 4 votes. The top gun this week might draw a little bit of controversy because it came from a losing team, and it could be a bit of debate on this one, but I've got my reasons. Greg Clark of Subiaco from that same game. We said earlier that his 14 tackles really boiled down to his intention of restricting Peel Thunder's fast-flowing, free-scoring brand of football that we've known to see from the Thunder, especially at home. Greg Clark took that away. Marlon Corbett, who was teetering if I could give the top gun to Corbett or Clark, did a great role on tagging Jeremy Sharp. But that's a role from one player only on another. Clark's impact was for the whole game. You know, you look at the broader picture, and his tackling really restricted Peel Thunder's free scoring game plan, and that's why I gave him the 5 votes.
Yeah, well deserved there from Greg Clark, Jaron Carr, Bailey Rogers, a few other midfielders involved, and always nice to see a couple of key forwards make the list who kick 10 between them.
It's for everybody. It's not just for the midfielders, isn't it? Not just in the WAFL, but also in the WAFL W as well. Leaderboard time after round 16. Charlie Dean still holds the lead, but it's gotten tightened. 2 votes now ahead of Bailey Rogers, who leapt up to second. Jack Cleaver's in third. Angus Scott fourth. Brendan Parfitt is in fifth. And then the top 10 is as follows. Lockie Tardrew and Hugh Davies, Jarvis Pina, Jeremy Sharp, and Oliver Franku. It is very tight, Rothy, and that top 4 in particular could be touted as favourites in the last month of the season.
Absolutely. And you throw the likes of Jeremy Sharp there as well, who knows he's got a stack of the footy this year, and also Oliver Franco down the bottom, who's made the immediate impact. So both the season campaigners and the guys that are sort of new to the WAFL as well, and the alignment players are certainly making their mark.
Absolutely. Fans, let us know who you think's going to win the Men's Player of the Year. It's certainly going to go down to the wire. Make no mistake about that. You can check us out on Facebook and on Instagram as well. We'll come back, and Rothy is going to give out his Colts report. Only 2 games played in the Colts this week, and a big round coming up in round 17 with the bye rounds, the full bye rounds done and dusted, and the Colts finals race is well and truly heating up. And also a full recap of the WAFL W round 17, the penultimate round, which saw the finals race end for Subiaco, and the finals now coming down to 3 teams fighting for 2 remaining finals places. Stay where you are here on Around the WAFL. It's all thanks to the fine folks at Grants Car Stereo, District Promotions, Sullivan Logistics, and Front Row Screen Sport. More after this.
Take it from me, great things happen at the WAFL.
Valentine Roads and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick to kick at every break. The WAFL is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the WAFL on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the WAFL. Paul Persick and Ethan Roth with you on your Monday night big recap show. We've just gone through round 16 of the Sullivan Logistics WAFL Premiership, the last of the bye rounds. And we'll get into WAFL W very shortly. But Rothy, first off, your Colts report. Only 2 games played this weekend. And let's just say there were a couple of one-sided demolitions.
There were. Claremont, obviously, the notable one with a 40-point win over East Perth. Had a stacking contributors. Cooper Edwards kicked 4 goals. James Barner for East Perth was probably best on ground for them with 25 disposals and 2 goals. Noah Braun continues what he does out of the state 18s into the Colts again, 27 and 2. So no great surprises there, but Subiaco made the long trip to Lane Group Stadium and got the job done. Not overly convincing. Inaccuracy didn't help Peel Thunder in the end, but Subiaco with a 15-point victory. Always a tough place to travel, which puts them 2 games clear of the 5, which was almost an 8-point win in the end. Obviously, a couple of those teams like Swan Districts and Peel Thunder versing each other this weekend.
Would you see the 5 in the Colts sealed with the way it is at the moment by way of the teams that are in the 5, or do you still think there's another twist to play out?
I still think there could be another twist to play out. I think the loser of Swan Districts and Peel Thunder might be done with coming this weekend. But yeah, I think obviously there's still spots up for grabs mathematically. I do think there's a clear 3 though, which was the same last year in Claremont, South Fremantle and East Perth, which are going to be tough to beat, particularly with Claremont getting back 7 of their state 18s players.
That is huge, no doubt about that. Claremont getting back those state 18s, including Heath Melody, the captain of the under-18s All-Australian team, and that could be very handy in their chase for a 4-peat. What about this coming round, Rothy? We've got the full contingent of games once again, and about time the bowl rounds are done as well. Who takes on who, and who do you think's going to get up?
Yeah, Claremont taking on West Perth. You think Claremont would be favourites in that one, but obviously these teams have had a good rivalry versing the finals week 2 last year, so you never know, but I'd say Claremont with the favourites there. I'll back them in. East Fremantle and East Perth. Obviously, we know East Perth struggles this year. East Fremantle, top 3 sides. They'll be favourites as well. Subiaco and Perth, could go either way. Perth have had a knack of being able to knock off teams when they've been underdogs, but I think Subiaco's form will continue them on. And Swan Districts and Peel Thunder in an afternoon game at Steel Blue Oval after the league game. Swan Districts and Peel, it could go any way. I think
you've got this one, I understand, and this is a beauty. This is an early elimination final.
I think it is very much so. And I'm going to say Peel Thunder. I think they've been able to match it with teams and aiming for their 5th win of the season, I believe, as well. So I'll back them in for a win away from home.
It'll be a good game, that one at 4 o'clock at Steel Blue Oval. All the Colts games, by the way, you can see on the WAFL YouTube channel, live, free and in full. It's going to be a beauty. I've got Claremont and West Perth, 2nd versus 4th this weekend. That one too is going to be a beauty, and I might tip a bit of a boil over, and I'm tipping with my head rather than my heart, thank you. I'm going with West Perth, but only just to give the finals race a little bit of a jolt.
Yeah, I mean, they could do it. Claremont's, they lost to South Fremantle as well, so they are beatable, but obviously it is rare that it happens. So for West Perth State, they'll be hoping it's this weekend.
It's going to be a big weekend. And for what it's worth, I'll go East Fremantle, Subiaco and Peel Thunder as well at Steel Blue Oval. Big weekend of Colts it is going to be. Now the WAFL W, Rothy, and this finals race keeps turning on its head. There's no doubt about that. And of course, one of those teams as we start our recap of the penultimate round was Perth. They still kept their top 4 hopes alive with a big win over East Fremantle by 30 points at Mineral Resources Park, 6-11 to 2-5, and it was set up by a big third term, 2 goals to nil rather in the third quarter that really set up the victory. And the way they took East Fremantle out of the game was just magnificent. All down to experience and class. And in the end, a well-deserved win for the Demons, and they could still make the 4.
Yeah, didn't think it would be a 30-point margin, particularly without Bella Shannon as well for Perth. Their best player wasn't out there. She was ill, and they did it without her. So I think that'll be positive for them. They can do it without their best player. Not that they probably knew that, but obviously it always just reaffirms when that is the case.
You know what's also good about this Perth side? They had Shannon out, who was originally meant to play in the pre-season AFLW match for West Coast against Collingwood, but couldn't do so because she was ill, is that Perth had a number of players that can stand up to Isabella Shannon's role. Amy Trinde, 24, Holly Britton, 24, Isla Baldwin, 20 disposals, and Molly Warren, 36 hitouts. That is why Perth looks stronger this year than last year, because of the overall depth. Their depth has gratefully improved under Steph Walding as coach, and I reckon they could be a side, if they win against Swan Districts next week, they deserve to make the 4 because they are a more mature side this year.
And some would probably look at their list and think the gap between the experienced players, the likes of House, White, etc., and then the young players is too big, but in many ways they actually complement each other. So it's a unique look, but I think it's one that's working for them. Obviously they remain outside the 4 at the moment, but Natalie House, it was her day, 3 goals, 5, could have had a bag, but nonetheless she was the difference with multiple goals on the run as well. And Mia Calhousen, State 18s All-Australian, kicked 2 goals, her first 2 goals in WAFL W as well.
Natalie House played very confidently in that forward line and can play a bit up the middle as well. It goes to show how versatile she is, and with the experience she's got under her belt, and with that big goal she had from outside the 50, even though she didn't mean it, still was able to kick a brilliant goal. I think it really gives Perth a bit of a new layer of power in that forward line, and I reckon that could be handy come finals time if Perth make it.
Yeah, they've they've got a good amount of smalls as well, and their talls, the likes of Dix, continue to present hard. I mentioned White there, who got into the game as the further it got along. So, pleasing signs for Perth. And East Fremantle, they were a bit off as well, but obviously they're still in the finals hunt, remain in the 4.
Absolutely. East Fremantle, very difficult day for them, 2-5-17 wasn't their best performance, and you think about it, they've still got some players out of the side, but, they had Flynn among them with the 20 disposals, Chloe Colgate with 24, Angelique Grayson with 20, but they really struggled to get any scoreboard pressure out, and it's, the midfielders tried their hearts out, the forwards, they congested the forward line, unfortunately, and they didn't give the likes of Flynn and Keeley a chance.
They didn't, and I mentioned they're still in the 4, but if they won this game, they would have locked in a home elimination final.
They would have, yes.
They have left their fate to this last week. It still is in their own hands, mind you, against West Perth, but that was the prize, and unfortunately for them, they couldn't lock it away just yet.
Perth's win, especially against East Fremantle, is going to be so big. It'll raise their confidence for next week, and you just have that feeling that if they do make the finals, if they do beat Swan Districts, they might cause the other sides in the 4 a headache or two.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of who can qualify. So, good luck to obviously these teams, obviously South Fremantle, which we'll get to as well. So, it's all set up for what could be a fascinating finish. It's not the first time this happened, so we're on to the fixturing as well, because it feels like year on year it comes down to the last round, which is not an easy thing to sort of predict.
But it is great for the competition and the fans that watch the WAFL W coverage. Just sensational. Speaking of sensational, South Fremantle fit that description. What a win for the Bulldogs. A statement-making win. Could be a changing of the guard, one would suspect. They beat Subiaco by 13 points at Fremantle Oval, 9-6-60 to 7-5-47. It was up for grabs at three-quarter time, but then the Bulldogs opened the floodgates with a 4-1 final term, not only putting Subiaco out of the match, but also out of any hope of making the 4.
Yeah, I was keeping a close eye on this one in commentary for the Perth East Fremantle game, knowing that it would have such a big impact on that one. So, 13 points. And Subiaco hit the front, but obviously South Fremantle came back. Kiana Lee, I think you could argue she's the reason why they're still in the finals hunt. She kicked obviously 4 on the day. And, what a luxury. They lost Tash Entwistle. They lost Maddie Evans. Congratulations to her as well for being picked up by Brisbane. They've lost Poppy Stockwell over the off-season before she went to Perth, and then Hawthorn. They lost, a stack of players as well. Zoe Huggett. So to be able to bring a player in this late of the season, I think it's credit to them, and she certainly made an immediate impact.
6 goals and 4 goals, and then a couple others. So that's about 11 goals, 12 goals in 3 games that she's played since making her way over to South Fremantle. She has really been one of those more barometer players, when you're looking at, what sort of role she's going to have in South Fremantle's finals push. And I reckon she could be the one that makes the biggest difference for South Fremantle in their push for a spot in the 4.
Yeah, well, I think they've struggled for a premier key forward. They've got, obviously, goal kickers Hadley kicking 3 goals on the day as well. They've got the small forwards, I guess, Brigade, with Palmer's back, sort of that general forward as well. But I think Kiana Lee, just a presence as well. I think when opposition defence see her there, I think as much as the goals are obviously there in the performance, but I think it's just a presence thing the team will lift for when she's out there.
How about Newson in the ruck with a 40 hit out? She put Siri Matthews right out of business in the middle and completely dominated the contest. And I think it was South Fremantle's work in the middle too that really made such a difference, not just with Newson in the ruck. Gomes had 13, but there was a more even spread of disposal winners. Mulder with 21, Kiana Lee even had 16 as well, getting into the contest. Tua Karina had 19, and they're starting to play with more of a balanced approach to their game. Give everybody a chance, get everybody involved in the contest, and it's worked wonders in the last month.
And I think they're starting to play the better footy at the right time as well. I think they haven't peaked too early. I think they're just starting to find their straps now, so it's dangerous for opposition teams, and Subiaco felt that the most, unfortunately. Last year's preliminary finalists can't buck it up with a final spot. We know, obviously, they've lost players to the draft and that sort of thing, but obviously, they actually below West Perth at the end of this round now.
Yeah, absolutely. They lost Woolmarans, who got picked up by Richmond and played in that game at Good Grosser Park. They've had Crane as well. But I think Subiaco have been the disappointment of 2026 for me, because there were a lot of expectations about them after making that preliminary final, only to fall short by Swan Districts. And I think they relied too heavily on their big 3, the likes of Shepherd, Stain and Petrevsky, and they weren't able to get enough support for the big 3 as far as their midfield depth is concerned. So unfortunately for Baker Denneman and Subiaco, I reckon their over-reliance on their big 3 came back to bite them.
And I think, without getting too deep into it, I think it's going to be a reflection on their game plan as well, because those 3 players, nothing on them. They get the football, but there's no point getting the football if you can't score as well. So, and that's not obviously them, it's the forwards. I think they play too high as well. So,
I'm with you there.
I think...
and they've averaged less goals this season than last.
Yeah, so I think it's not the ability to win the footy, it's just the ability to convert, which you feel for the forwards there because the midfields do, great work. But unfortunately, just one of these things. We sometimes see it, though, like teams, it's not always linear. Like just because they reached a prelim last year, bit of a down year, potentially, it might be needed moving forward to really get that motivation level back where it was.
One thing they need next year is a premier key forward because they weren't able to fill the shoes of Olivia Walmarans after she got picked up by Richmond.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tough task to do that. They brought in Courtney Lindgren, who had her moments and obviously played in the state game as well, hit the scoreboard most weeks, but a bit more support. Good to see Annabelle Johnson as well kick goals late in the season, which is something potentially to work with moving into next year as well, which she was brought in for more of a defensive role. Yeah,
Johnson with 3 goals. I think her forward role could serve a greater purpose next year when they look to push for another finals campaign. Of course, Petrevsky, one of the big three, 23, Stain with 31 and Shepherd with 29, but again, they needed more from their other midfielders. I mean, when you're looking at the likes of Diana Lee, Boss, and a couple of others, Macy Fair, who's only a young gun coming up through the ranks, but they just did not get enough support, the big three. That was the thing, and they need to look at that and need to change up their game plan for next year.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where obviously the recruiting is a big part of it, but it's also the players coming through the Rogers. And they had some state 18s representatives as well. You mentioned a couple there, Molly Kelman as well. So they are obviously producing talent as well. It's a bit of a down year for Subiaco. Hopefully for their sake, it's a case of being able to surge back up after a down year.
Absolutely. They can only rebuild from there, but South Fremantle, they're building towards a possible finals campaign. 5 wins from their last 6 against Subiaco, and they won this one by 13 points. And a pity this one wasn't as close as it was, but in the end it was no real surprise. Swan Districts demolishing Peel Thunder by, good heavens, 74 points, 12-11 to 1-3, and Peel's miserable season is put out of its misery.
Yeah, that comes to an end, unfortunately, a win this year, but credit to Swan Districts, obviously a 90-point win last time their sides met, and beyond 70 points again this time, so right from the outset, it was Swan District's day. And credit to Peel Thunder, like they scored a goal in the last quarter after being held scoreless in the first half as well. So they didn't give up in the end, and I think it's tough, when it's your last game and you're versing, one of the premiership fancies, if not the premiership fancy. You just probably want your season to come to an end.
Yeah, I think so, and the players will be relieved. They want to build on 2027 right now if they want to be a competitive team again. But obviously, you feel like, and I won't disrespect Peel Thunder here, you'd feel like it was a training run for Swan Districts because of how they controlled possession all day, 41-17 inside 50s. Henry getting amongst it, of course, presented with the WAFLW Player of the Year last Thursday night. Jamie Henry picked up where she left off with 32 disposals. Chloe Riley with 22. It's good to see Summer Yarran and Taylor Edwards link up forward. 7 goals between them, and Yarran, again, could be that key pillar in the forward line come the finals.
Yeah, and we mentioned a few weeks ago, like if Sharp doesn't get you, then those two can, and you throw Ugal in there as well. There's multiple avenues to go. We know that with Swans, and it's going to be interesting as well moving forward because obviously they can't move. Congratulations, they have locked away the minor.
Well done, Swannies.
They can't move, so whether they rest some players in this last game to get really revved up for the first one, because obviously unlike other competitions, they don't have a week off, so it's straight into the first final. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Oh, well, will they take their chance? I'm a bit 50-50 on it because they're up against Perth this weekend who are playing for a final spot. So if I'm Swan Districts, and same thing can be said with Claremont, I don't think either of them should take any chance at resting key players because it's straight into it, and I don't care what the risk is. You've got to go straight into it and have yourself some miles in the legs to get yourself ready for finals. I don't think both clubs should take their chance.
Yeah, you could probably make an argument for both ways as well. Like obviously they do have the double chance. I think you'd probably want to get some minutes into the legs as well. I think it's different for Claremont because obviously they have a bye this week, so they could view it as that point. But for Swan Districts, they carry on. But Jamie Henry again, 33 disposals, 9 tackles. We know how dominant she's been this year. And Chloe Riley, Luca Davis, they've had multiple contributors all year.
And Lauren Quaife in the ruck as well.
Swan Districts. So, I think it was a great performance by them and one that we weren't really surprised with.
Yeah, absolutely. 74 points in the end for Swan Districts. Peel Thunder, they're their usual suspects. Wrigley, Heidi Island as well. Tian Collard were among the possession getters. Ebony Dowson likewise, and Emily Bilsich with another lot of 16 and 17 disposals respectively. And Holly Bilsich finished up with 20. Peel's last game of the season, okay, you look at it as a disappointment from the surface with, 16 losses from all their 16 games. But to their credit, they were able to go away from the Wrigley-centric way they evolve their midfield around. They've been able to, have an even spread around the midfield. Wilson did creditably well in the ruck, 20 hit-outs. Wrigley, as we said, 24. But they've got some fellow midfielders that can build on what needs to be a better 2027.
Yeah, and they'll have a well-deserved break now, and it's obviously a fair while between round one next year. So they'll go away and reflect and, crown their club champion as well. I think Chloe Wrigley will be right in that conversation. So, I think it's not all doom and gloom for Peel. Sometimes this happens, but hopefully onwards and upwards for them.
Absolutely, but it's onwards to the finals for Swan Districts and the minor premiership. Congratulations to Jason Burton and his side, winners by 74 points. And then we go to the game yesterday at Sullivan Logistics Stadium, the WAFL W Perth Derby, and West Perth, who can't make the five, searching for some respectability to end their season, and they got a bit of that on the weekend against East Perth, winning by an even 50 points, 9-15 to 3-1. Big first quarter it was for West Perth that set up the victory, but East Perth, they were competitive right to the end. They never stopped trying, but in the end, West Perth just have a little bit more up their sleeve, and the returning Kat Bennett with a couple of goals back into good form, but also Kara Dejalewski, who was a threat in the ruck.
She certainly was. 20 hit-outs, hit the scoreboard, 20 disposals as well. So we know the talent she possesses, obviously WA's MVP, and looking like she's going to go very high in the draft. So her second last game, it would seem, for West Perth. They looked like a team who was just playing with freedom and a mentality of nothing to lose, which they sort of had, but you kind of question where was that when it was, I guess, the final spot on the line.
But also when you're looking at it, they did have a lot of injuries to contend with as well, so they didn't really have a full-strength side for a lot of the season, but they showed like they played like they were.
Yeah, Ellie McAvoy was great as well. Irish recruit, 26 disposals and a goal. Lexi Strachan as well, another one that's likely to go in the draft, 18 disposals and a goal. So, they were completely dominant at Sullivan Logistics Stadium for East Perth. Similar to Peel, they're just probably wanting the finish line to come sooner rather than later.
Absolutely, but credit to some of their young guns. Co-captain Layla Ferns with 22 disposals. Also, you have Taylor Suter. She worked hard at the coalface with 17. Hope Ugal Hayward was a constant threat at goal with 2 goals, and she laid down 8 tackles as well. So she is ferocious when the ball is in that vicinity. And you look at also Brooke Edwards in the ruck, held her own against the combination of Dejalewski and Fisher, and also had 13 disposals as well. Tessa Conn also had 12. But for East Perth, obviously, it's a young side. They're developing. They're showing it bit by bit, but they need to go beyond their best at times in these games.
They do, and they can't keep having scoreless quarters or halves. Obviously, scoreless in a second here, but again, young developing side, so they'll be better for the run. For West Perth, I think they're a bit of an indifferent year. Like, obviously, they're not going to make finals. They didn't last year as well, but the Rogers Cup obviously went on that three-peat, and they're out of the finals as well. So I think a bit of an indifferent time, something that West Perth aren't used to. I think it's a healthy challenge potentially for them.
And that is the biggest surprise this season in the Rogers Cup. When you're looking at it, West Perth, who won the last 3, aren't even in the 4.
So they're still going to have players come up, but maybe not as dominant as we've typically associated with West Perth. But that's a credit for other teams with their programs as well.
Absolutely. West Perth getting the job done on Sunday by 50 points at Sullivan Logistics Stadium. 1 round to go. Where does that leave the ladder? Swan Districts minor premiers in 2026. Claremont, they can't make it to top spot because of their percentage. South Fremantle and East Fremantle round out the top 4. Half a game ahead of Perth, who can still make the 4. West Perth and Subiaco cannot make it, so a disappointing end of the season for them. And East Perth and Peel Thunder rounding out the bottom half of the ladder. Votes time, Rothy. Who have you got for round 17 in the Player of the Year votes?
Yeah, that game we were just talking about starts us off. 1 vote, Ellie McAvoy for West Perth, 26 disposals, a goal. As I said, she's probably been one of the recruits of the year, to be honest, for West Perth. Gone a bit under the radar, but she's just shown up week in, week out in that midfield. 2 votes, our winner, who we've known for a little while now, and congratulations to her again, Jamie Henry, over 30 disposals. And,
keeps on getting it done.
I think it's interesting because it probably compared some of her performance, a bit unders, but she still had a best on ground performance as well. 2 votes for her. Kara Zizalewski, 3 votes for West Perth, as I mentioned. Just athleticism in the ruck personified, and made an impact in more ways than one. So sad for West Perth because she is going to get picked up very high in the draft, it looks like. But one more game against East Fremantle for her, it looks like. 4 votes for South Fremantle. We mentioned probably the reason why South Fremantle sit in the 4 currently. A late inclusion for a recruit at the end of the year, Kiana Lee. She's kicked 14 goals in the last 3 weeks, and it's her presence as much as anything which is lifting the Bulldogs around her. She gets the 4 votes for the 4 goals she kicked in a winning side. But 5 votes, started the game like a house on fire, no pun intended, and finished it as well. Natalie House, the experienced campaigner, had 8 scoring shots. Could have had a bag, but nonetheless, I think she was the main difference in the end. Certainly up forward against East Fremantle.
Big spark for the Demons forward line, no doubt about it, as they look to push for a fairy tale top 4 spot. Great selections, Rothy. Can't argue with those, especially number 5, Natalie House, getting the top gun in the WAFL W competition this week. Leaderboard, now we know first place is already there, but there is a battle for second place. Isn't there,
There
Rothy?
is, and it's going to be interesting how the podium rounds out come a week's time. But Jamie Henry, we know 44 votes now. Not going to be able to get the 50, but could potentially get very close depending on what happens in
Well,
the
she's
last
got the
round.
most votes of all any Player of the Year show, so she's got the record.
Of course, yeah. It's going to be hard to beat even as the years come. Isabella Shannon on 17 votes. She didn't play on the weekend. Hopefully she's back for the last game against Swan. She's in second position on 17. Paige Shepherd on 15 votes for Subiaco. Juliet Kelly on 14. Of course, won't see her again after being picked up by Adelaide. Jamie Harkin on 12. Talia Mortar on 11. Likewise, Crystal Petrevsky, last year's winner. Kiana Lee is bolstered up into the top 10 to be on 8 votes in 8th position. Chloe Wrigley, 8 votes for Peel Thunder. And Noel McNaughton with 7 votes for East Randall, who again has been starring for AFLW in a short time on Freo's list.
Absolutely. Now, what that boils down to is that although the Player of the Year has already been won, there is still a battle for second place. Shannon, Shepherd, Kelly and Harkin. Only one of them will be the runner-up in the Around the Waffles WAFLW Player of the Year. We'll take a break, and when we do come back, we'll wrap up with the highlights of the highlights, the top 3 plays of the week here on Around the Waffle, all thanks to Grants Car Stereo, Sullivan Logistics, Front Row Screen Sport and District Promotions. Back after this.
Take it from me, great things happen at the Waffle.
Valentine roads and goals.
With free entry for kids, future stars on the ground, and a kick-to-kick at every break. The Waffle is where footy memories start and legends are made. Follow the Waffle on socials or get to a game.
Hey Siri, how to connect Bluetooth to Mac truck?
Sullivan 2, what's your position?
Just a midfielder, mate. On your left. Oh, come on, get out of the way.
Car Stereo Morley, proudly supplying and fitting quality car stereos for over 15 years, selling top name brands like Alpine, Focal, Rockford Fosgate. From a simple upgrade to complete custom systems, stop in and see Grant and the boys at 61 Russell Street, Morley, or visit us online at carstereo.com.au.
And you're back with us here on Around the Waffle, your Monday night recap show. Paul Persick and Ethan Roth with you, wrapping up with the top 3 plays of the week, the highlights of the highlights. And we'll start off with the Colts, Rothy, Claremont and East Perth on the weekend. Cooper Edwards, what a haul of 4 goals. He had his best haul for the season.
Yeah, co-captain who led from the front with a bag of 4 is a small forward as well. I think that's certainly a bag these days when you're in a position like that. So, yeah, he's hoping that it translates into the final games to come and also September.
Absolutely. Cooper Edwards could be that small forward that the backlines don't expect to have a big impact. And I reckon Cooper Edwards, his haul of 4 goals, just magnificent. 2. Harvey Sporting Guy. What a debut, and he's finally got his chance in the big league, and Paul Sanzoni, credit to him, he really has created a chance for him, and Harvey Sporting Guy made the most of it with 2 great goals.
Yeah, someone to work with for the future. Obviously, they'll have their fingers crossed that he gets picked up in the draft, so yeah, obviously tall forwards don't grow on trees, and because champs games do count as qualifying games for Colts finals, I guess the plan, hopefully for his sake, would be play these remaining games for West Perth in the league and then transition back into the Colt to show recruiters what he's made of on the big stage in the finals time.
Absolutely. And then the number 1 play, we just can't go past this. Natalie was a house of fire, no pun intended, and she started the party even though she didn't mean it, with a big left foot long bomb from outside the 50. You're on the call for this one. You've got to love those goals from a player who is really going to be part of Perth's big finals plans if they make the 4.
Yeah, a lot of experience as well coming from the Esperance region. And on that far side of the left foot, on the wrong side as well, she's hugged up against the boundary line and tried to hit up, I think it was Brooke White in the end, went over the head. And unfortunately, Tiani Tika couldn't save it in the end. And you probably knew from there they had the 4 points in the bag.
Absolutely. Great work by Natalie House. She's our top play of the week in Around the WAFL, the top 3 highlights of the highlights. That does it for today's edition of Around the WAFL, your Monday night recap show. And by gee, Rothy, this final round of the WAFL W in particular, I feel for you because whatever game you've got, the heart rate is going to accelerate to the point that your moustache could fall off and you might need a doctor standing by.
Yeah, well, good luck for those even picking this game of the round in the first place because there is only one dead rubber, as we said. And even then, obviously, there's still so much pride to play for Subiaco and East Perth. But, imagining it will be one of the other 3 games and looking forward to seeing who the 4 comes about with and also the men's finals as well. Another week to look forward to.
Rothy, great work as always. Good luck in the Colts on Saturday and fingers crossed you get an absolute cracker. Those games being, of course, Claremont South from Mantle, Swan Districts Perth, East Fremantle West Perth, and of course Subi and East Perth. Maybe a dead rubber, but Subiaco will have a lot to play for as they look to farewell 2026 on a high. Rothy, I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Paul. See you then.
Make sure you get the heart rate all set and ready to go. Fans, we certainly hope you do as well. Big preview coming up on Thursday night here on Around the WAFL. You can check us out on the Around the WAFL YouTube channel and, of course, on where you get your podcasts. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you on Thursday for a huge WAFL preview.